Major improvements for the NSC all share in the last 2 weeks. Today coming in at a very encouraging 26,521. Does that reflect in the bond markets as well?
Well, so far, bond yields have actually been down this year. There's been some slight improvement in the bond market since last week. Last week, we were trading only 2 maturities. This week, we've gone up to 5. Interest has been more at the short end of the market, maturities in 2013, 2014 at the most. So that's what we've been seeing in the bond market so far since the start of the year.
I mean, Kubi, just your views on what we're likely to see in the bond markets and the secondary markets generally in 2011. AMCON coming through, in total going to raise something like 3 trillion naira, sorting out those non-performing loans of the rescued banks, trying to clean up the banking subsector. Is that likely to have a very positive impact?
It certainly is, and it's already reflecting with the rescued banks. Generally, almost all the banks in the country have benefited from AMCON. It has had an immediate liquidity impact on the balance sheets because of course there's a restructuring of assets from completely illiquid into very liquid. It means that more credits can be granted across the industry, and at the same time, the AMCON bonds, apart from liquefying the balance sheet, they actually represent cash because they can be pledged, they can be used as pledges. Banks can borrow against them directly from the central bank. So there's certainly a very positive impact liquidity-wise on the bond side. There seems to be more of an emphasis on treasury bills so far this year because we've been seeing a lot of interest there. Yields have been quite good, and there's actually an auction today, but we don't know what the stop rate is yet.
Let's talk about the currency, which has felt a bit of pressure with the dollar strength. Are the fundamentals of the naira intact?
They're pretty similar to last year. I mean, we know that CBN, the central bank, had done a lot to try and stabilize the currency. Last year, from the middle towards the end, we saw these kind of pressures. We've started the new year in a similar fashion. Quite a bit of pressure on the currency. What we've noticed is that the central bank, again, we're seeing some stabilization efforts in terms of the amount they've had on offer. They've offered quite a lot. However, we have seen a steady devaluation. This week we've had a loss of about 50 kobo this week in the 2 auctions, and we have some unmet demand which will probably carry over into next week if the system can't take it out.
I mean, a variety of variables have a direct impact on the currency, Kubi, not least the inflationary pressures in Nigeria, which the CBN is desperate to tame. We've also seen, although the CBN's come in to defend the currency, they've indicated that they can't continue on that tack because it's had a significant bearing on the reserve position of Nigeria. Your outlook for the naira under these conditions?
We see the naira remaining under pressure. However, even though we've had reserves throughout 2010, if you look at the reserve pattern, we did have a significant decline for most of the year, but because of strong oil prices, reserves actually improved. For the last 2 to 3 months of 2010, there was actually an improvement in reserves. So again, what will happen to the naira will be largely determined by where oil prices will be. If oil prices stay strong, then it helps the government manage the currency a little bit better because oil is our main export, as you know.
Right.
However, again, there's a second factor. There's a political factor, as you mentioned. We're in an election year. There will be a lot of spending. There will be inflationary pressures. Right. So that's a second slight risk factor in 2011 for the naira.
And very briefly, there has been talk of introducing the Chinese yuan as another tradable currency in Nigeria. Your views on this?
I think we're in full agreement with it. It makes a lot of sense in terms of trading. China is responsible for a very major portion of the world's exports, and Nigeria is no exception to that. We import a lot of things from China. We have a lot of traders going to China who will certainly benefit from being able to buy yuan and not having open dollar positions. And even for us locally, for people, for currency, for institutions that trade third currencies, it's an opportunity for us to do yuan trades, and we're looking forward to it taking off very soon once CBN comes out with some more clarity around the pronouncement.
I mean, Kubi, we've run out of time, but please, in 30 seconds, the presidential primaries in the PDP, is that something that the markets are watching very closely?
It's something the entire country, the markets are watching, the whole country is watching, and we expect a lot of news out today and tomorrow. It's very key because that's the ruling party, so we're all very interested in what the outcome will be, and it will have some effects. Those are the things that we expect will affect the economy this year.